morning, I'm Chris Kelly.
And I'm John Wheeler.
And we're coming to you live from Jepson Hall, where we assure you everyone is practicing social distancing. This morning, we are recording this session, so we want to make you aware that we're doing that. If this so that we can make this available later in case anyone misses it or wants to refer back to it. Everything that we do in the chat, that'll be part of the recording. You are all muted and sharing is disabled. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. You should see a little chat window at the bottom of your screen. And so if you could post them there, we'll try to answer them as best as we can in today's session. And if necessary, we'll follow up with you later. But yeah, so thank you for joining us today. This morning, we would like to demonstrate for you scheduling and conducting meetings with Zoom. The irony of using Zoom to conduct Zoom training isn't lost on us, so we'd like to congratulate you. By virtue of having successfully joined this meeting, you have already overcome the greatest hurdle. You have registered your Zoom account, you've installed the application, and you've joined the meeting. So I'd like to go ahead and say, you may have noticed that there are different, if you've gone to the Zoom website or heard anything about Zoom previously, you might have come across the information that there are different accounts, different levels to Zoom. And previously here, we only had a select number of pro licenses versus standard licenses. We have changed that. Now the entire university community has a pro license. There's nothing you have to do to change that within your settings. It's already been done for you. And the difference between a pro license and a standard license is a pro license will allow you to conduct a large meeting with as many as 300 participants simultaneously. And you have the ability to have the meeting go for pretty much any duration. It's not limited to 40 minutes like it would be with a standard license. Okay, so now we'd like to talk about how to schedule a meeting in Zoom. And so I'm going to share my screen and then let you see what I see in Zoom. So you can access this through either the browser or the Zoom application. I like to start in the browser. I feel like I have a little bit more control over options, but either way is fine. So I'm going to go ahead and click sign in below since I already have an account, as we all do. And then I've already signed in, so I didn't have to. It would prompt you ordinarily for to choose from 3 different options, and you would choose SSO, single sign-on. It did it for me already because I'm already logged in. But so to schedule a meeting, you click the Meetings tab, and then schedule your meeting, and then you'll name your meeting. You can put in a description if you want. And then here, you would set the time and date of the meeting, the expected duration, and you might notice this radio button here, recurring meeting. So if you then choose this, you have the ability to control the frequency of the occurrence. So you can do it every day, weekly, monthly. So I'm going to, for example, schedule a weekly meeting. Repeat every week. It's going to be on Fridays. I'll say that it's going to run for 3 occurrences. And then that would set up the recurring meeting for you. I always leave registration unchecked. I don't recommend adding extra steps, like extra layers of complexity for your participants. The URL is fine, it's specific to the meeting. It's not, other than for a recurring meeting, the URLs aren't reused, so there's really no reason that I can think of to add that extra layer of complexity. Same with meeting password. You know, if security was, you know, really a concern, maybe I would do that, but the likelihood that an outside party would determine the meeting URL, which is specific to your session, is pretty slow. Here you have the ability to allow the host and participant to have video. I start with them off for both, and the reason for that is you don't want to catch participants unaware. If you leave that on and then they automatically click their camera on without thinking it, because you saw it sort of prompts you to right away. They might not exactly be ready to be on camera, and so leaving it off and having them choose it once they're within the meeting is just a courtesy. Gives someone a little bit more control over when they become live, so to speak. And then for audio, you have the option of just doing computer audio, just doing telephone, or both. It defaults to both. I recommend both. Probably the majority of your participants will join by computer audio, but having the dial-in option is a really good idea. Someone, maybe using a desktop that doesn't have a microphone built in, or they may have, a mic and camera, but not, really feel good about how the mic sounds. Maybe some people are just more comfortable speaking on a telephone. So leaving both selected gives you an opportunity to also provide those dial-in numbers. And I'll show that to you. You'll see what that looks like in a minute once we generate the link. So here, I used to always leave this checked. And I probably still will going forward because I generally have meetings with just like a few people. But I learned my lesson last night when I got an email saying that some people had joined my meeting at like 8:30 last night and were waiting for me to start the meeting. And I realized, okay, so for something large, something with a kind of broadcast to a bigger population, maybe not enabling join before host is a good idea. So I went in and I edited it. Changed that after the fact, and it was fine. But so that's probably a good idea. You have the ability to mute participants upon entry, so that people will be unmuted when they start without the ability to change that until you give it to them. That can be an asset. I usually don't select either of these, the enable waiting room or only authenticated users can join. Again, we're adding layers of complexity, and we're all kind of going through enough trying to readjust how we conduct business as it is. So I don't see the point in adding extra hurdles. In this field where it says alternative hosts, you have the ability to add another participant to the meeting as a host as well. And so you can put their credentials in here, essentially their email address, Richmond address. If you don't remember to do this here, but then you start a meeting and realize, oh, I wish I had made someone my co-host. For instance, John is co-host in this meeting. You have the ability to change that once the meeting has begun. We'll go over that a little later. But so, going back up, I showed you how to do a recurring meeting. This mouse is running away from me. I'm going to change that so that we can see a standard meeting once the link is generated. So here are the details of the meeting that I've scheduled. Oh, I accidentally put the password on, but I ordinarily wouldn't do that. This is the URL that I was talking about. So this is what you will want to send to your participants. You can just copy and paste it. Also, we have integration. So we all use Outlook here. We would use the Outlook tool. This integrates with Outlook for a PC without incident, I've been told, but I'm actually a Mac user, and I find that I have a better experience if I choose this link here where it says copy the invitation, and I copy and paste, and then I start an email within Outlook and then just drop everything in. So I'm going to click copy invitation, and so see here my invite. Got the topic, it's got the URL, it's got the meeting ID. If someone already has Zoom and they just want to punch in these 9 digits. like I said, ordinarily this would be blank. This just reverted when I switched from recurring. There's the one-tap mobile feature, and then additional phone numbers. These are not toll-free. For the majority of users, my home phone plan and my cell phone plan include long distance, so it's not a consideration, but it is something people probably want to be aware of. And so here's the meeting ID again. It kind of spells it out in a few places. And then here, it can, this link, you can find local numbers that Zoom has purchased to dial into. If someone doesn't have, long distance included in their plan. But so you would just copy all of this, or you would, it smells really just like to run away. You would select copy meeting invitation, and then that puts it into your clipboard. And then, like I said, you go into an email, and then you'll just paste, and this will show up in the email. And then you put in the names of your participants and send it off. So that part's, it's pretty straightforward. I am going to edit this meeting to show you what a recurring meeting would look like on this page. So I'm going to go back into meetings, and so here's my test meeting, and now I've decided, oh, I meant to have this happen, with more frequency. So I have the ability to edit to recurring. So I'm going to make it weekly. Every week. I'm going to stop it after 3 occurrences. I'm going to remember to uncheck the password this time. I'm going to leave everything else as it was and hit save. And then so now, my URL and everything look the same. You'll just notice that now we have this line here explaining that there will be multiple occurrences at the meeting. Did you go to meetings to show that? Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So now I'm going to show you what it looks like in my meetings tab. So now I can see all of the occurrences scheduled for that meeting. Okay.
And do you want to talk about editing a single one?
Editing a single meeting?
Yeah. So you have the ability, even as it's occurring, to make minor changes to each of those.
Yes, that's a good point. So I can now fine tune individual meetings if I'd like. So I'm going to click, I clicked on the first occurrence of the meeting. I'm going to go to edit. And then I'm going to get presented with another option. Am I editing only this meeting or all of my meetings? I'm going to choose only. And then, so I can't change the name. The name is, static for the group, but I can change the description. So this is a more detailed test. And then that way there's a little bit more detail in that one. I can change the time. So I could say that just this meeting, we're going to have it at 12:30 instead of 11 because maybe there's a conflict, but I'm not breaking the time for all of the other meetings. Same thing, if I decide that this one meeting we're going to be discussing highly sensitive information. Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. I can't change the password for a specific instance. I have to change it for all or none. So I've changed the time. And so now, I go to my meetings tab. Evidently, I didn't save that. There we go, okay. Sorry, that was my fault. Evidently, I changed it but didn't click out of the window and make the setting stable. But so you see that that first meeting, that first additional meeting, I should say, has an amended start time to 12:30, and the rest remain 11. Okay, so now that you've got a meeting scheduled, we have to talk about how to host a meeting. And so today I clicked start, and right now it says join because it's trying to get you to join the session that I'm already in for the live meeting. But if I wanted to start my first test meeting, I would click this button here, and then it would launch the meeting, which I won't do because then I would get kicked out of the one that I'm in right now. But that's how you would start a meeting. So now I'm going to show you some screenshots of some of the controls. Oh, I'm sorry. I almost missed this step. John reminded me. So if you want to host kind of like a one-off meeting really quickly, you can click host a meeting. I'm not going to actually click it because again, it would kick me out. But you can, you'd probably choose video on, but it could be an audio only meeting if you wanted. It could be a screen share only if you wanted. But so you have these three options of how you'd like to start your ad hoc meeting, so to speak. And so you select one of these options, and then as soon as you click, you're in a live meeting. At which point you'll see a URL that you could then copy and paste in an email and send it to a colleague quickly and say, hey, I've just sent you this, please join me immediately, so to speak. So that's kind of a way to get up and running the meeting really quickly. You don't have a lot of time to schedule and plan. So yeah, so now I'm going to show you some screenshots of what you see as a host within a meeting. Here we go. Sorry, this bar was blocking me from selecting slideshow. But and you probably noticed too, as you hover down, you'll see a menu similar to this. So you have the ability to unmute, of course, and to test audio options. Many of you probably did this upon entry, but if you didn't, if you click this caret here, you'll see different audio and video setting. Well, that would be audio, the other one would be video, but you'll see different settings, including the ability to test to make sure your mic sounds okay, your speakers are, broadcasting okay. So I did that to make sure that the mics weren't too hot. They actually were a little bit too hot. Ordinarily, you might find that they're a little bit too low. So that's a good idea before starting a meeting, is to kind of click there and make sure that you like how everything sounds. And of course, with the video, you can see how everything looks. If you have more than one camera, which we do because we're in a classroom, you have the ability to make sure that you select the camera that you want. And so that's where you find all of those things. So here, I have the ability to even, this isn't the actual one, but so if I were to click this in my actual window up here, I would see the ability to invite more participants. And I could, generate that URL real quick and send that out. Here, this is important, the ability to manage participants. So you have a lot of control over whether people have the ability to speak, whether they have the ability to share video, which ordinarily you would want them to be able to. In a larger meeting, you probably don't, because you could end up with kind of chaos. So it's at least sonic chaos. So it's a really good idea to, if you're conducting a very large meeting where you're kind of speaking to a crowd, to go ahead and make sure you've muted your participants. And then over here is the share function. And so I want to show you a little bit more about what that's like. So when you click that share tab, you have the ability to display your entire desktop or a specific window within your desktop. If you have two monitors attached to your computer, you'll get this second screen. I don't now, but I did when I took the screen capture. So you can choose just the content on screen too, so to speak. Another thing that's pretty cool is if you have two monitors and you're sharing a PowerPoint, you have the ability to just share a window with the PowerPoint content, and then you see your presenter notes on another window. And so that's something that can be useful. You can kind of read through your script or stick to your notes while your participants are viewing just the main content. You also have the ability to spin up a whiteboard, a virtual whiteboard, and you have control over whether it's a whiteboard that just you can write on, or if you want the ability for the entire meeting to jump in and be able to write and do things. And then you can also, if you have an iPhone or an iPad, you can join either via AirPlay, and so there's the AirPlay icon that you'll be familiar with. So you can AirPlay to into the meeting, and you can write, you can make notes and make that visible, or you can connect a lightning to USB cable to your computer and use your iPhone or iPad as a sort of another whiteboard or another presentation device that way. But so it gives you an ability to kind of inject some additional content. Okay, so here is what I see when I click on the Manage Participants tab. So you see the audio options, the share screen options, and others. But over here, I can click on any of the participants, and this is from a meeting yesterday, but there's not a way to do this live. I can't show you my video while I'm in the meeting, evidently. But so you can mute, you can kill video, you can kind of ad hoc make people co-hosts after the meeting has begun. You can mute all, you can unmute all. You can, if you click this drop down that says more, you can mute on entry, you can allow participants to share their screen, you can allow participants to unmute themselves, so you can start with everyone muted, and then have your participants have the option of becoming live for audio. You can set a enter-exit chime so you'll know as people are coming and going. Again, probably not a good idea for a very large meeting because it's sort of distracting. You'll get chimed frequently. But yeah, so those are some of the controls you have as a host over the participants once your meeting has begun. I'm sorry. In chat, you have the ability, or in the same window, you have the ability to change the chat to broadcast to the entire group or to a specific person. Additionally, you have the ability to share content. And so, like I said, you can control whether or not the participants are also part of the chat. So if you wanted to say something to the group but not have them respond, which would be kind of an odd case, but that could come up. Or you wanted to drop a file and have everyone be able to download it, but not have everyone start saying things, you can control that. If you grant your users, your participants, the ability to participate in the chat, they can also upload content. They can, in a large meeting like this, if somebody said, well, where do I find out more about this specific feature of Zoom? Someone else could reply with, oh, here's the URL, and then drop that in there. Or, oh, I've copied this video from YouTube, here you go, and drop the video file in the chat. So it's actually a pretty useful feature. You can also, as we're going to do, copy the chat at the end and then paste it, save it mail it to yourself or put it in a box or something, and then visit the questions after the fact to make sure if there's anything that was missed that you get to that, that you get in touch with that participant. So we will be doing that. So over here, if you click the ellipsis, you actually have, this is where you can control direct chat. You can, maybe say my participants can chat with me, but not with specific people, like they can't direct message each other. So it gives you a little bit more fine control over what's happening in the chat window. But so that's really kind of our run through of how to host or schedule a meeting and then conduct it once you've scheduled it. So now John is going to fill me in on what's been going on in the chat, what kind of questions we've had so far.
Yeah, actually, so there weren't too many, and I hope I was able to answer most of them. Those last few, I said I'll have to check on those, and we will have to get back to you on them because we'll have to test them in a new Zoom session. But actually, we were kind of planning on just wrapping up in about 30 minutes, which is where we are now. So if we can let you all go, and we want to be cognizant of your time, so we'll still stay on the chat for just a few more minutes and try to answer any residual questions. But thank you so much for attending, and we'll let you know where this recording is posted in just a little while.
Yes, thank you. And so if you have any additional questions, or once you've got it up and running, if you're having any problems or anything, please reach out to my department, Telecom and Media Support Services, at 804-287-6500. We're open from 8:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, starting Monday and continuing through the rest of the semester. Same hours as the help desk. Or you can reach us by email at telecom@richmond.edu or visit the knowledge base at spidertechnet.richmond.edu. Thank you.